بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله صلى الله عليك وعلى أهل بيتك المظلومين صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله يا شهيد يا غريب يا مظلوم كربلاء يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. Enlighten your hearts and majalis with a loud salawat for Muhammad and Al Muhammad. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Most of the Muslim countries are poor and uncivilized. Job opportunities are scarce, and you won't find the best education and healthcare offered. Most of the Muslim countries are ruled by tyrants, by dictators, by corrupt individuals who restrict the freedoms and rights of their citizens. Many of these countries, they don't tolerate any type of dissent from their citizens. If someone were to disagree with the ruler, with the government, they would persecute them. And they will follow that person, and they may even kill that individual, even if he was in an embassy outside the country, as we saw recently. Many of the Muslim countries are war-torn. They are afflicted with terrorism. They are afflicted with wars and battles and violence. So when we look at the Middle East, the Muslim countries, it's not a very bright picture. It's a gloomy picture. It's a society that has many problems, and they have problems with their governments and problems in the society. But then when we look at the West, it's a much brighter picture. The West is much richer. The West is much more civilized. The citizens of the West, they receive much more rights than the people of the Middle East. Yes, there is no country that gives full freedom, but at least when you compare the Western countries and how much freedom they give to their citizens, it's not compared to the Muslim countries. Here we have freedom of religion, we have freedom of speech, and in many Muslim countries, this is not available. In some Muslim countries, we could not hold this majlis. This majlis, because we are the Shia of Ahlul Bayt, because we are the followers of Imam Ali, this majlis would be banned. I have been invited to certain Muslim countries, but they ban you just because you're Shia. They don't want you to speak there. So when we look at the West in comparison to the East, the best jobs in the world, the highest paying jobs are found in the West. The best education, universities in the West. The best universities and hospitals. So when we compare to the West to the East, there's no comparison. And because of this, all these negative factors in the Muslim countries and the positive ones in the West, we see the influx of immigrants. So many Muslims that left their countries and they came and settled in the West, seeking a better life, a better standard of living, or because they couldn't live in their home, in their homeland, because of the persecution of the government or the violence that existed there. So they abandoned their homeland, even though they loved their countries of origin, but they couldn't live there, and they came and settled somewhere in the Western countries, whether here in Australia or America or Canada or Europe or any other Western country. And right now, the statistics, studies mention that in Australia, there are anywhere from 500,000 to 1 million Muslims. And most of these Muslims, they are either immigrants or the children of immigrants, the second, third, and sometimes fourth, fifth generation of immigrants. The converts are a minority. Most of the Muslims here, they are immigrants and their children. And anytime you have this happening, anytime you have a mass people who migrate, they leave their culture, they leave their society, and they go live in a different society. Anytime this happens, you find a wide range of individuals and how they choose to live in this new society. So with Muslims that came to Australia or America or Canada or Europe, we find most of them are one of two. They fall under one of two groups. The first group of Muslims living in the West are those that take this extreme that we'll speak about. Those that don't change at all. They come to Australia, he lives for 30 years, but he still can't speak 10 words of English. He's still wearing the traditional clothing of his country. He still wants to eat the foods of his country. He still speaks his language. And he brings his culture with him. Nothing changes. The same lifestyle that he had in Beirut, that he had in Baghdad, that he had in, for example, Kabul, that he had in Bombay or wherever he came from, he brings it with him, and he does not assimilate at all. And this is usually the first generation. This is the immigrants themselves, the older generation. They are on this extreme. They don't take anything from this new society. And then you have the second group who are on this extreme. And that's the second, third, fourth. And the more we go down in the generations, the more they become, the more they lean to this extreme. Those Muslims that completely assimilate and melt into the new society. They become just like the Westerners. In his speech, he becomes just like an Aussie. He speaks with that Australian accent even more beautifully than the Aussies. He wears just like them. He eats the foods that they eat. And this you'll find, like we said, in the second, third, fourth generation. They don't like the traditional foods anymore. They like the new foods, the pizzas and the burgers and the sandwiches and subs and whatnot. So they become just like the Westerners. And sometimes they go to the extent of even changing their names. Muhammad becomes Michael. Ali becomes Alex. And so on and so forth. I know someone in the US who migrated from a Muslim country. His name was Muhammad Jum'ah. He changed it to Michael Friday. That's a true story. So some will go to this extent. This is how much he wants to melt and assimilate into the new Western culture. Even my name, I want it to be Michael, because I want to be just like them. I don't want to have to do anything with my old country that my parents came from or my grandparents. So they take this extreme, and we have many who follow this route. But unfortunately, what we are missing in the West is the Muslims that take a middle course. Muslims that at the same time who have adapted somewhat to the Western lifestyle. They have good jobs, they speak very good English, they have very good Western education. They are well connected to the non-Muslims of their city, of their place. And they understand the Western mentality. They have non-Muslims friends. That on one side, but on the other side, they are devout, practicing Muslims. They pray their daily prayers. They make sure they keep those names, the Islamic names. They attend the Friday Jum'ah and the Islamic programs in the masjid. And they make everyone know that we are Muslim, for example, Australians. This third group, you find very, very few people that follow this course. And that's why Islam has been so behind in the West. We said there's almost, 500 to 1,000 to 1 million Muslims here. Look, for example, in America, in Canada, in UK, all these non-Muslim countries, there's so many Muslims. But you find till this very day, non-Muslims don't know anything about Islam. And the reason is because when they think Islam and Muslims, they will obviously think of the older generation, because those older generation who they don't mix at all, they practice the religion, but they don't mix with the non-Muslims. They don't even speak English. They don't have any non-Muslim friends. They don't have education in that country, and they don't mix. So when they think Muslims, there's a barrier. Oh, Muslims are those old people that came from, the Middle East, and there's a barrier in the communication. So when they look at those individuals, the first generation, they live in their own world and circles and cocoons. So they don't get to know them. They don't get to know their religion. Then when they come to the second, third generations, they lose the Muslim identity. They become just like an Aussie. So Muslims become invisible in their eyes because they don't see someone who they can relate to, and at the same time he practices the religion. The ones that practice the religion, they can't relate to. The ones that they can relate to, they've lost the identity. They've become westernized, too liberalized, and they have lost the Muslim identity. And that's why you have so much ignorance about this religion. I mention this all the time. There was once a study done in the US to find out how much the American people know about Islam. It was done by an Islamic association called CARE. They found out in this study that 60% of Americans don't know anything about Islam. Zero. They can't even tell you one piece of information about Islam. What is Islam? What is it all about? What do Muslims believe in? They don't know. We hear about Islam and Muslims, but they are clueless about the teachings of the religion. 60%. And then what's more disturbing is that 10% of them believed, according to the study, that Muslims worship the moon. 10% of Americans, they think that we Muslims worship the moon. Why? Maybe it's because when the Eid comes, we're all looking for the moon. We want to have one day less Ramadan. Everyone's trying to prove tomorrow is Eid. Tomorrow isn't the last day of Ramadan. Maybe it's because of that. Allahu A'lam. But this shows you how much ignorance there is. And I was reading a similar article about a study they did in Australia. They did a study to see what Australians know about Islam. And the article said, it was in the Sydney Morning Herald, I read it. It said that 1/3 of Australians, non-Muslims, the white Aussies, they knew nothing about Islam. So it's a little better maybe than America. But wait, because these numbers may be misleading. So 1/3 of all Australians, they have no idea what Islam is and what Muslims believe in. 2/3, they claimed we do have information about Islam. We do know some information. But when they were asked, they gave all the wrong information. Some of them said, we think Muslims worship Buddha. Others said that we think Muslims worship the Kaaba. The Kaaba is their Lord. And all this other nonsense. The ones that really had some understanding about Islam, that their messengers, Muhammad, and they, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And for example, the Muslims, they pray 5 times a day towards Mecca. And they believe in one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They believe in all the messengers of Allah. They believe in Ibrahim, Musa, Isa, Nuh. Most of them were clueless. Only 10% they had this information. So 90% they don't know anything about Islam. Why is there all this ignorance? It's because of this gap that exists between the Muslims in this country and the non-Muslims. Remember, we said 2 groups. The ones that practice, they're living in their own world because they're the old generation, the first generation. And the ones that are well connected, that they can relate to, they don't practice their religion. The third group that we need, the ones that can speak the language, that grew up here, that have good education, good jobs, most of the times you will find they lose the Muslim identity. You can't even tell he's a Muslim. And that's why, unfortunately, you find there's all this ignorance about Muslims. You know, the Jews, I always mention this example. We like to always speak against the Jews, right? But maybe we should learn from them. Why do you think they're so successful? Why? You think they use the jinn? They use magic? No, because they know how to work. Look at the Jews, especially in the US. Why are they so successful? One reason is because they always keep their Jewish identity. Even if he becomes liberal and he doesn't practice, but he will make sure that everyone knows that he's a Jewish American. He's a Jewish Australian. While the Muslim, as soon as he lives in this country, he grows up here, khalas, he has nothing to do with his religion, Islam. Many of the Jews are successful, right? And they make sure that they tell you when they become successful that we are Jews who are successful. Not just an American successful person. I'm a Jewish successful individual. And how do they do that? They'll wear their yarmulke, Or, for example, they will make sure to donate to their country, Israel. They will donate to the lobbies, the Israeli lobbies, like AIPAC in the US. Or in any other way. Sit with a Jew. I've tried it in the airport, in a plane. Sit, speak to him. 3 minutes, he'll tell you, I'm a Jew. They want this word out. That you see us, we're so successful. We're Jewish, successful individual. The Muslim, when he becomes successful, sit with him 5 hours. He'll try to beat around the bush, and he'll try to prevent you from knowing he's a Muslim. Why? Because he wants to fit in. I want to be just like everyone else, right? But the Jews, subhanAllah, they have the opposite mentality. And you see, that's why everyone, when they think of Jews, oh, Jews are these successful people who they have the best jobs, they have, they live with us, I have Jewish friends, because they want themselves to be seen. Muslims want themselves to be invisible. They don't see them because their identity is so weak. As soon as he becomes successful in this country or in America or anywhere in the West, he becomes invisible. He changes his name. Have you seen a Jew that changes his name? Unfortunately, this is what we end up doing all the time. You know how many times Muslims ask me, Sayyidina, is it okay for us to celebrate Christmas? They want to bring the Christmas tree, and they want to bring Santa Claus, and they want to do all of that. Have you ever seen a Jew celebrate Christmas? Maybe, but most of them, they don't. Why? Because they have their own identity. They have their own beliefs. They have their own religion and their own teachings and their own holidays. They don't need Christmas. But we Muslims, we have all these beautiful holidays. We abandon them and we want to celebrate Christmas. I have some young people. They ask me, Sayyidina, can we celebrate Christmas? I ask them, why? Is it because it's the birth of Jesus? Fine, Jesus, ala rasi. But when is the birthday of your Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi? Many of our youth, they don't even know. With the birthday of Jesus, he wants to celebrate it with a Christmas tree. But with the birthday of his own Prophet, who is much greater than Jesus, with all respect, with all due respect to Jesus, to Isa. But our Prophet is much greater, isn't he? He doesn't even know when the birthday of Rasulullah is. And he'll come by and he won't even come to the masjid, he won't celebrate. But he wants to celebrate the holidays of other people. When we have this, lack of confidence in our religion, lack of love, we want to always hide under other religions, other names, this is what happens to Islam. Islam is a backwards religion that nobody knows, and even though the small information they know about is all wrong, it's all propaganda, it's all from the media. So I tell that youth, you want to celebrate Christmas? Fine. But when the birthday of your Prophet comes, you make a celebration that's greater, to make the world know that this is the birthday of my Prophet. You bring a Christmas tree twice as big as the one you brought in Christmas, and a Santa Claus twice as fat as the one you brought for Jesus. So this is how we Muslims are, unfortunately. We keep on hiding under fake identities. You're a Muslim. You won't see a Jew that's celebrating Christmas. And if you do, it's very rare. But with Muslims, unfortunately, a lot of Muslims do, especially the second, third, fourth generation. Because he no longer feels that pride about his own belief. He does not have that pride and that confidence and that love. So we always want to, blend in and be with the others. Obviously, when we do that, we won't have that big of an influence and that big of a place in that society, because we don't make ourselves evident, because we don't place ourselves in the spotlight. A brother once asked me this question. He asked me, Sayyidina, tomorrow I have this meeting. It's a business meeting. There's going to be a lot of executives, and there's going to be some females there. And some of them will extend their hands to shake my hand. And this is haram, because it's opposite gender. And I'll have to sit on a table where alcohol will be served. Also haram. Rasulullah, in the famous hadith, he did la'an on 10 individuals that deal with khamr, alcohol. The one who drinks it, the one who buys it, who sells it, the one who makes it, the one who carries it, and so on and so forth. Amongst them, whoever sits on a table where alcohol is being served. I'm not allowed to sit. Because being a Muslim, one of your teachings and obligations is a nahyu anil munkar, to forbid the evil. This is evil in front of me. I have to say no to it. I can't say no in this country. So the least thing I do, I get up and leave. I show that I'm not happy with you drinking Muslims around me. You want to drink? Go on another table. Don't come on my table and drink And then I'm just quiet looking and not saying anything or not leaving. So he says that I have this business meeting and it's very difficult for me not to shake hands, not to sit. So is there a way out of it? Is it okay? You see, that's a problem with many of the Muslims. We are always trying to run away from our obligations. We don't have confidence in Allah that He will make us successful. And subhanallah, this is the exact opposite of Jews. We're on the haqq, but we have no confidence. We're always trying to make excuses and, oh no, I can't, this is difficult, they won't accept me. It's, I may not get the promotion, maybe the executives, they won't like me and whatever. But then we find the Jews, they're always so proud about their religion and they will tell everyone that this is my religion, you have to respect it. We Muslims, unfortunately, we don't do that. So I told that young man, I told him, you know what? You know why we Muslims are always hiding under other identities? We're always not fighting for our rights and not trying to be successful Muslims as Muslims? Because it's difficult. There's challenges, of course. The reason is because we have no tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we had tawakkul on Allah, then we would not care about the executive and this one. And do what you have to do. Do have tawakkul on Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you success. This is what He says in the Quran, doesn't He? He says, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. If you have taqwa and you rely on Allah, Allah will save you. He will protect you. He will help you. And He will give you rizq, sustenance from a place you never knew. Don't think that your rizq, your sustenance is from your boss. I don't care if my boss doesn't like it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Razzaq. He is the one that sent me this rizq and the boss is only Ameen. How could I go against Allah because I'm afraid the boss will cut my rizq? The rizq is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But unfortunately we have no tawakkul on Allah. So I told that young man, I told him, look, I'm not going to give you the fiqh answer. It's a halal haram. But I'll just give you an example. I'll ask you a question. If it was a Jew, what would he do? He has to go to a meeting and they are doing, those executives, they are violating his religion. You think he'll stay quiet? Wallahi, the Jew will enter the meeting like a lion. And whoever goes against his religion and forces him, to sit here, do that, do something against his religion, whoever does that, he will not show them any mercy. Why? Because he has 10 lawyers behind him. Whoever discriminates against his religion, 100 lawsuits against that person will be raised. Religious discrimination, alhamdulillah, one beauty of the West is most of the Western countries, religious discrimination is what? Is against the Constitution, is against the law. Jews take advantage of that. I will come and practice my religion freely in the United States, in Australia, and whoever says anything opposes, I will use the law to take them down. I will file lawsuits against that individual. The Muslim, he goes so afraid. Oh, I don't know if they'll accept me if I want to enter a meeting and not shake hands with the females. I don't know if they'll accept me if I sit on a table and there's alcohol and I say something. We keep on making so many excuses. Where is your tawakkul on Allah? In this land, we have the law is with you. But unfortunately, we make up so many excuses. That's why nobody respects the Muslim. You know why? Because he's a coward. As soon as you threaten him, he backs down. The Jew never backs down. That's why nobody wants to mess with them. They'll never back down. They'll fight and fight and fight against you until they win. The Muslim, right away, he backs down. Right away, this is America. It's a liberal society. I can't do this. I can't pray in the public. I can't pray in the work. We always are making up excuses to not practice religion. We have no tawakkul on Allah and we don't even rely on the law. The law, trust me, if we had a little confidence in ourselves and we would try harder, even the law is with us. I always mention the story. In 2008, there was this Muslim girl. She went to a store to apply for a job. The store was a fashion clothing department store. The name of the store is Abercrombie. It's a chain store in the US. I don't know if you have it here. Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah. So she went for the interview. They saw her resume. It was perfect. They wanted to hire her, but then they saw she's wearing a hijab. No, we want to sell, clothing for the youth, and it's all, right now their clothing is all revealing the body, and they're half naked when they're wearing the clothing. How can we have a woman that's dressed from head to toe? She's the one that's trying to advertise for us and market for us and bring the youth. So they denied her. They told her, sorry, your clothing, the hijab, is against our fashion statement and our fashion objective and goals. So they denied her. What did she do? She went and filed a lawsuit. Now, she filed it and she won at the local level, local government. But then the state government, the state judicial system, they looked at it and they overturned it. She lost. Now, if it was many of us Muslims who would say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We Muslims are always being victimized. We have no one to support us. The West is against us, blah, blah, blah. We always like to play the victim. But look at the strength of this girl. She said, this is my right. This was religious discrimination. I'm not going to stop. What did she do? She, once again, she said, let's take it to the Supreme Court, the highest court in the U.S. system. So she applied to the courts so that they look at the case again, because this was religious discrimination. They told her, look, the Supreme Court has hundreds of cases ahead of you. You have to wait years. She still didn't lose hope. How long did she wait? She waited for 7 years. She didn't lose hope until 2015. Finally, it was her turn. They looked at her case and they said, yes, this is religious discrimination. And they sided with her. And it was all over the news in 2015 that the Supreme Court said, you're not allowed to discriminate based on the hijab, even if they didn't discriminate against her because she was a Muslim. It's because the hijab was against their fashion goal. But yet the Supreme Court, this is religious discrimination. That set a precedent for all Muslim hijabis. Do you think now a company will deny a Muslim woman who's wearing a hijab her job anymore? No, because now they have this as a precedent, correct? They'll all remember that a few years ago, the Supreme Court ruled in their favor. So let's not mess with Muslims when it comes to hijab. That's how the Jews are. They will try their hardest, even if you fail once, you fail twice, you fail 20 times, fail 100 times. In the end, Allah will make you triumphant when He sees. The Imam says, لَمَّا عَلِمَ اللَّهُ مِنَّا الصِّدْقِ أَنزَلَ عَلَيْنَا النَّصْرِ. Amir al-Mu'mineen says that. When He sees you are sincere, you're truthful, you try over and over, you're going to win in the end. Look at Rasulullah. You think he was sent as a messenger and after 2-3 days, khalas, he conquered Mecca? No. Rasulullah went through so much headaches. Rasulullah, for 20 years, he was bothered by his people. They harassed him. They used to oppress him, throw rocks at him. They used to make up lies against Rasulullah. He's a magician, he's a soothsayer, he's crazy, he's this, he's that. But Rasulullah didn't give up. Rasulullah was even exiled to Medina. They waged wars against him until he said, مَا أُوذِيَ نَبِيٌّ مِثْلَ مَا أُوذِيتُ. But in the end, Rasulullah came and he conquered Mecca. Because when you have patience and you try again and again and you fight for the haqq, you fight for your principles, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make you triumphant. Unfortunately, we Muslims, we back down so easily. We say, oh, it's too difficult. They won't accept. They want this. They want that. I remember once in the U.S. there was this masjid who the governor of that state was a female. She had sent a request to visit the masjid and get to know the Muslim people there. So her office sent an email to that masjid. They asked the masjid, is there anything the governor needs to know before she comes so there isn't any misunderstandings? They said, yes. Please, when you come, if you see a man, don't shake the hands to create that awkward situation. Just place your hand on the chest so nothing, no misunderstandings, no one's feelings are hurt, and so on and so forth. And she said, okay, fine. You guys have freedom of religion, and I respect whatever law you have in the masjid. She came in the masjid like this. And this was a Muslim man. He told me the story. She came, she said hello, salam to everybody like this, because she was told. And then all of a sudden, this Muslim guy comes and he's the one who extends his hands. She was shocked. Didn't you guys tell me I'm not allowed to shake hands with you? He's the one that is breaking his own rule. She respected the Muslim rule, but the Muslim did not respect his own rule. What do you think she said about Muslims? They don't even have respect for their own laws, for their own religion. When they see us in this way, wallahi, they'll never respect us. They'll never respect. The other day, a mother here in one of the schools, and her daughter goes to one of the schools, she says that in one of the classes, I think they have the PE class, the physical training, whatever. They have to swim, boys and girls together. So she says that my daughter told the school that, I can't swim because it's mixed and it's not appropriate and whatever. But then the teacher tells her, but I have 50 other Muslim students, they're all swimming. What do you mean this is religion? If it was religion, why are these Muslims doing? Another example, a mother told me that there was this music class, concert that they had to attend. This girl didn't want to go. She told them, going and listening to music and the concerts, and this is against my religion, so I can't go. But then likewise they told her, but there's so many Muslims who are going. This makes the job of the devout Muslims so much harder because it isolates the good Muslims. The Muslim that wants to practice his religion, they'll look down upon him. You're the only one that's doing it. What about all the other Muslims? All the other Muslims, they don't even respect their own law. When they don't respect their own law, no one will respect it. If I don't respect my religion, no one will respect it, brothers and sisters. The only way they will start respecting and give us the haqq, as they say, the haqq, the right is not given, it's taken. No one will come and give it to you. You have to go and take it. The only way they will respect us and accept us the way we are is if we start respecting our own religion and we don't compromise and we don't surrender so easily. If we do that, brothers and sisters, we stand strongly, firmly, wallahi, they will start respecting us. Exactly as the Jews do. They never give up. They never stand down or surrender. But we Muslims, we make up so many excuses. Wallahi, you know how many flights I've been on that are long flights from Muslim countries to the West, whether to here or to America or Europe. And I know the entire time of Salah, from Dhuhr to Maghrib, I'll be in the plane. I have to pray in the plane or else Salah will be qada. I'm the only one that goes in the back and prays. And there's hundreds of Muslims. None of them prays. And some of them are praying Muslims. I mean, they're not all bad Muslims. Some of them are practicing Muslims. But what? They tell you, in the plane, we can't pray. No, you can't pray. I do it every time. But when I'm the only one that does it, it makes my work more difficult. Because the flight attendant, everybody's Muslim in this plane. I mean, it's a flight out of Dubai, out of Abu Dhabi, out of Qatar, wherever. They're all Muslims, or many of them. But why is he the only one praying on the plane? Maybe he's the extremist one. I'm the one that's doing my wajib, and I have to have it so difficult because nobody helps me in this. If all Muslims were to make a stance that, you know what, on the planes we will pray if it's a long flight, and I'll miss my salah, it'd be more difficult. It'd be, of course, less difficult and more easy for us. But when Muslims don't do what they have to do, unfortunately, this is what happens. So yes, it's difficult, brothers and sisters, and especially Islam, there's propaganda against it, and all the bad work of the extremists, all their hateful crimes that they have done. This makes our job more difficult, but that does not mean we give up. That does not mean we lose the Muslim identity and we become liberals and secularists and we don't care about our religion. Our religion needs our help. And the least thing we can do is to have that strong Muslim identity. That tomorrow when I'm successful, I make sure that everybody knows I'm a successful Muslim. So when people hear Muslims, they remember the successful ones, not unfortunately, the extremists and the uneducated ones, which usually have the strong Muslim identity. The successful ones who grow up here, they lose that Muslim identity. They try to hide behind fake identities. That's the least thing I can do for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that brought me to this country, and He gave me so much na'am, so much khair, so much good. The least thing I can do is I have that identity. And this is what Jews do. Don't think all Jews are practicing. Many of them, they don't even practice their religion, but at least their Jewish identity, they preserve it. They keep it. The Muslim, he loses it. Many Muslims, brothers and sisters, they're successful. You would be shocked if I would tell you that some of the highest positions in the world, CEOs and very successful Muslim businessmen are Muslims. You would be surprised if I tell you that they're Muslims. Why? Because they try to hide it. They don't want the world to know we're Muslims. If it was a Jew, wallahi, as we say, they would make sure everybody knows he's a successful Jew. But with Muslims, unfortunately, we hide under other identities. And this is exactly what happened with Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. With Ahlul Bayt, there was so much propaganda against them from Bani Umayyah and then Bani al-Abbas. Look at the time of Imam Hussein, Imam Zainul Abidin. There was so much propaganda against them. Muawiyah and Yazid, they portrayed Ahlul Bayt as Khawarij. And they were the true Iman. They were the grandchildren of Rasulullah. Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, when he was in Sham, an old man, he saw Imam Zainul Abidin. He thought this is a Khariji because the propaganda, the media of Bani Umayyah, this is what they told them. So when he saw the Imam, he began to insult the Imam. He said, Alhamdulillah alladhi ahlakakum wa nasara amir al-mu'minin Yazid alaykum. He's a brainwashed guy. He's not evil. He's brainwashed. Just like many non-Muslims, they're brainwashed. They think all Muslims are terrorists and they're all evil and so on and so forth. So when he said that, the Imam knew he was a fool who was brainwashed. He told him, Ya Shaykh, hal qara'ta al-Quran? Have you read the Quran? He said, yes. He thinks Imam Zainul Abidin is not even a Muslim. He told him, did you read this verse where Allah says, قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. I don't ask you anything, Rasulullah tells the people, except the love of my family. He said, yes, I've read it. Have you read the verse where Allah says, إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا? He says, yes. He told him, Ya Shaykh, نَحْنُ أَهْلُ الْبَيْتِ نَحْنُ الْقُرْبَى. We are Ahlul Bayt. We are the Qurba of Rasulullah, the family. He told him, who are you? He told him, I am the grandson of Rasulullah. He said, Allahu Akbar. I never knew. The government tells us that you're Khawarij. I thought you were a Roman, someone from a different country. He began to cry. He threw himself on Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam. And he told him, forgive me, Ya Mawlai. I had no clue that you were the grandson of Rasulullah. What did Ahlul Bayt go through in Sham? It was a very long journey until finally, after they left Sham, they headed back to Medina. They reached a point of crossroads. The guide, the person who was driving, who was leading them, when they reached that crossroads, he told the Imam that we have reached this intersection. If we go this way, the road will take us to Medina. If we go the other way, it will take us to Karbala. Where do you want me to take you? Imam Zainul Abidin asked his aunt Zainab alayhi salam. He told her, my dear aunt Zainab, where do you want us to go? Should we go back to Medina or to Karbala? Zainab alayhi salam told him, my dear nephew, tell him to take us to Karbala so that we can visit Imam Hussein, so that we can visit the Shuhada. The guide, he took them to Karbala. When they arrived, they noticed who was there on the grave of Imam Hussein. The first person to visit Abu Abdullah al-Hussein after he was killed was Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, this companion of Rasulullah. He came and he visited the Holy Prophet. He visited the grave of the grandson of Rasulullah, the grave of Imam Hussein on the Arba'een, the 40th commemoration. They noticed he is there. Imam Zainul Abidin came to greet him. When he saw him, he told him, Ya Jabir, only if you were there to see what they did to us on the day of Ashura. Ya Jabir, ha huna qutila rijaluna. Ya Jabir, ha huna dhubihat atfaluna. Oh Jabir, it was in this place that they killed our men, that they slaughtered our children. You were not there to see what they did to us. Allahu Akbar. Zainab alayhi salam then went searching for the grave of Abu Abdullah. When she found it, she threw herself on the grave of Hussein. She told him, Akhi ya Habibi ya Hussein, you don't know what they did to us in Sham and Kufa. They beat us. They treated us like prisoners of war. But I want to apologize to you, Abu Abdullah. Why? Because before you died, you entrusted me with your orphans. I brought all of them back except one of them, Ruqayya. She died in Sham and I buried her there. So please forgive me, I did not bring her back with me. And then they said she was holding something under her abaya. She told him, my dear brother Hussein, I have brought you something from Sham. What is it? What is that gift that she has brought Imam Hussein? She uncovered it. It was the head of Abu Abdullah, because after they beheaded him, they took the head, they placed it on the spears, and they took it to Kufa and Sham. Now Zainab brought the head of Imam Hussein back. She told him, my dear brother, I have brought your head back. Now finally the head and the body will be united. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم. Everyone, يا الله يا الله يا الله. Everyone, please read with me. يا الله 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 يا الله. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج واجعلنا من أنصاره وأعوانه والمستشهدين بين يديه. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات نهدي ثواب الفاتحة مع الصلوات.